So I have a poem for you to start out with. I'm not going to sing to you today. Jerry asked if I was going to sing you a song. No, I don't think so. The poem is by Leo Dangle. Some of you have heard it before. The title of it is Not the Usual at McDonald's, and it's from his collection of poems entitled The Crow on the Golden Arches, so hint. I'm exiting the drive-thru, holding a cup of coffee, when the sharp caw of a crow near my open window startles me and I slop hot coffee into my lap. My anger flashes at the crow, and I think of the woman who held her coffee cup between her thighs and sued because she was burned. I try to imagine how McDonald's might be held responsible for failing to warn customers about such startling noises. But I'm not really burned, and I notice that the crow, now sitting with lifted wings on the Golden Arches sign, looks like a dark angel who brought a wake-up call. That sudden wild note I took as just some animal prank was a challenge, too, and I feel pleasantly alert. So, can you see it happening? Pretty vivid. Can you feel it? Have you ever spilled hot coffee on yourself or anything hot? So you can feel it. And maybe the response, what made this happen? So you get that. What's he doing with the poem? He's describing an experience, right? But he's also processing it, is he not? Going through what happened, and as he processes it, there's a shift, an emotional shift, from anger to awareness. He's awake, and maybe even grateful. And so that little experience opens up into something larger, a moment of education, of awareness, wakefulness. I think Jesus is hoping that something like that will happen with his disciples at some point. And so when the two show up today with their question, he responds initially with this sort of openness, this hopefulness, this willingness to listen. And they are, frankly, just rude. It seems to me. They come to Jesus, James and John, say, Jesus, we want you to do what we want you to do for us. There's no please. There's no, Lord, there's something on our mind that we've been talking and thinking about. Is this a good time to talk about it? Could we discuss it now, or could we make an appointment to talk with you later? None of that. No. It's just a gimme, right? Give us. We want this. And I want Jesus to say to them, well, I want you to do something for me. I want you to wake up. How about that? Let's start with that. And when we get there, maybe we could talk. Or, I'm busy right now. Take a hike. Or something like that. I want him to respond as I want to respond. But he doesn't do that because he's still hopeful. Because he is. And he has this hopeful spirit, this openness to people all the time. So he's leaning in and he's listening. And he says, okay, I'll bite. What do you want? And they say, we want to sit at the head table with you at the victory banquet. We want to be right beside you. We want to be on the floor with you as you lead the victory parade in when you take charge of everything. We want to be your top dogs. We want to be right and left hand men. We want to be right there with you so that the light shines on us too. It's an audacious request. In their defense, just a chapter earlier, as Mark tells the story, and it's good to remember that this is Mark's version of the story. One person suggested to me that this could be like a play. It could be presented in several acts like a play, a Greek drama, which makes some sense given the context. So if we think of it that way and see it on stage, they had just been a chapter earlier, a couple scenes earlier, on the mountaintop, the Mount of Transfiguration. And Moses and Elijah show up, and there's the voice from heaven, and all of this wonderful mystical stuff happens. They saw and heard the whole thing. And so that conditions their expectations. They think, we've got a taste of what is to come. We'll get ourselves in place for the full-blown version of this and be right up front and center for it. And it makes some sense. One commentator says, it's like James and John call shotgun. Right? Front seat for us. I'm by the window. You run the radio or whatever the thing is. There, you got the controls. That's what they ask for. And when the others hear about it, they are steamed. Why? Because they were hoping for that for themselves. Maybe, I don't know. Or we didn't think of that. If we had, we'd ask. Or we thought of it, but we didn't have the courage to ask, or whatever. Whatever's going on, it's one more teachable moment for Jesus, where he can talk with his disciples about power and how power is applied and used in this world, and how we are here to introduce a new world into this one, to usher in this new way of being in this world with all the upending and overturning and reorienting that Jesus talks about, so that the last go to the front of the line. And those who have been on top, you go back here and wait. But you're still all in. Notice that. You're still all in. It's just changing places so you get what's going on here. So you understand that there's a whole different dynamic in this realm, in this coming kingdom. Given that, the glory that the disciples ask about, we want to be with you in your glory, glory becomes a whole different thing. Given the story, given the context, given the way it unfolds, given what happens, it's a redefining of glory. And it's larger than James and John realize. So Jesus asks, in this wonderful biblical language, can you drink the cup that I drink? What comes to mind? How about the garden before Jesus is arrested and his prayer, Father, if this cup can pass by me, I would prefer that. But if not, I understand. Can you be baptized the way I was? Jesus comes out of the water, sees a dove, he hears a voice, and then what? He goes off into the wilderness. He's deprived, he's tested, he's tempted, he struggles. It's agony. Are you ready for that? And if all of that doesn't compute, that first part I read to you, that's the third time that Jesus talks about, you all know what's going to happen when we get to Jerusalem. Now, remember, Mark is writing 40 years later, so Mark knows what happened in Jerusalem, so he's telling it from that perspective. You all know what happens in Jerusalem. And as he reviews that for them the third time, James and John are the two 8th graders in the back corner yakking about how great it's going to be when Jesus takes over J-Town and they get to be big shots and order other people around. Maybe Jesus should have had the disciples, before they joined him on the road, read and sign not a non-disclosure agreement, but a full disclosure agreement. And in a way, that's what Mark's gospel is for his community. Telling the story, telling all the implications, so you know what you're getting into here. It's very clear. It is glory redefined in light of and in the shadow of the cross. A week ago Wednesday, we were here for youth group, and it was winding down. This was 7:30-ish, about that time, 7:20. So we were bringing stuff back inside, cleaning up, and my phone rings. It's my brother John. And he wants to tell me about the new rescue vehicle at the fire near where he lives. My brother John, as I've told you before, is developmentally disabled or slowed so that his cognitive development stopped at about age 10. 9, 10, right in there. Though he's older than I am. So it's always been like having an older, younger brother, which is a strange, disorienting thing, too. But he wants to tell me about this, and about Chad, the fireman, who showed it to him and explained it all to him and to others, and he is so excited. And when I tell my sister Sue about the conversation, she says, yeah, the 10 surfaces when the fire truck shows up. And that's his life, still. And so he tells me all about it. So excited. And then he wonders if I have Sister Sue's phone number, because he can't find it. I tell him, yeah, I've got it. It's in my phone. I don't have it in my head. How many phone numbers do you have in your head now? Yeah, because we have cell phones, so it's right there. I don't need to remember it. So I tell him, I've got it in my phone. What I'll have to do, because he doesn't have a cell phone. He lives in a group home. He uses the house phone. So he doesn't do social media. He's not on Facebook. He doesn't have any of that stuff to mess with. Think of all the time he has. He can go look at fire trucks. Maybe if we didn't have all that. Anyway, so I tell him what I have to do is I have to hang up and find the number in my contact list on my phone, and then I'll call you back with it, and you can write it down. This is old school. Okay, sounds good. Thanks. And so I find the number, and I write it down on a piece of paper, and I call him back, and one of the guys at the group home answers and calls John to the phone, and it takes a while because he doesn't stay by the phone, even though he was going to stay by the phone. And I say, John, I got the number. Are you ready? Yep. You have a pen and paper to write it down? Yep, right here. Okay, here goes. And I slowly give him the number. And he asks me when we get to, what were the first 3 numbers again? And so I give him the first 3 numbers, and then the next 3 numbers, and the next 4 numbers. I see you got that? Yeah, got it. Let's do it one more time. So we go through it one more time. Are you sure you got it? Yeah, got it written down. Got it right here. Okay, good. So I'll talk to you later. Okay, and happy birthday. This was just the week of my birthday. Have a happy birthday, Jeff. He remembers. So we hang up, and I finish doing my part here, and I get in the car, and I drive towards home, and I make a stop to pick up some things, and as I pull in the parking lot, turn the car off, my phone rings. And it's John, and he says, Jeff, can you give me Sue's number again? I didn't write it down. He assured me 3 times at least that he had written it down, that he had it right there, but he didn't. And I laughed a little bit. I said, sure, but I'm going to have to hang up again and find it in my contact list down here in the car. I got to find a pen, I got to find paper, and it's dark, and I'll call you back with, okay, thanks. He hangs up. So I find it one more time, write it down, I call back. But while I do this, I just crack up, laughing, because it's so ridiculous. And it's so John. And he can be so aggravating and drive you just crazy. And sometimes maybe it's around the bend, and crazy just becomes hilarious. I don't know. Anyway, I just laugh. And then I call back, and it's one of the guys at the group home answers, and I tell him who I am and why I'm calling again. He says, oh, yeah, John wants that number. Wait a second, I'll get a pen and paper. I'll write it down for him. And so he does, and he thanks me, and I thank him, and I hang up, and I laugh even harder now because that is so John. His whole life, if he didn't want to do something, he would just do it really poorly or flub it up, and then somebody else would step up and do it for him. And he learned that. He's been conditioned by that. So that's his expectation. That's the way he operates. And it just is hilarious to me. He's got us all right where he wants us. And I laugh off and on the whole way home. And I laugh when I get home, and I laugh the next day. I keep replaying this in my head. It is just a hoot. And I tell other people about it. And about 2 days later, I'm telling somebody this, relating the story, and then it hits me. John has Parkinson's. He can't write. Not anymore. Or if he can, you wouldn't be able to read it, but he shakes like crazy. And all of a sudden, that little hilarious, silly, stupid moment sort of breaks open, and it's funny, and it is so very sad. It just breaks my heart. Why did I not see that? Why didn't I get that? I had it right there, and suddenly it's this, and it has all kinds of other implications, and I get it. James and John come to Jesus and say, Jesus, we want to join you in your glory. And Jesus says, you don't know what you're asking, but you will, and you will. That thing with my brother is still very funny. It's very funny. Because it's so John. You got it, John? Did you write it down? Yep, got it right here. Sure, yep. Later, Jeff, I didn't write it down. It cracks me up. And it's so sad. Because he can't write it down. And that's life. That's the thing that happens to us. Those things happen. That's life. And we are here together for each other, for all of it. In all of it, for the whole thing. For the whole thing. And more. And more. And so, so much more. Thank God. Amen.